Hello and welcome into the Stretch 5 podcast. Coming to you live from the spacious spare bedroom apartment studios, I'm Brad Sturgeon. And joining me today, as always, is the co-host of Stretch 5, the man with the plan, Brian McCullough. Brian.
It's good to be back. NBA playoffs, we're here.
That's right. It's been a long season. It's been a fun season. But joining us today, as always, is our NBA uterus insider, Marie Rush.
Hi. I really hate that name.
I was going to think of something else clever, but then I didn't, so.
I'm really glad because everything you told me as something that you might have said clever was so much worse than Uterus Insider, and that's bad enough.
We need somebody inside the uterus. Anyway, today on the podcast, we'll be talking about Golden State's history-setting 73rd win, Kobe's big 60 that he put up against Memphis in his last game of his career, Brazilian steakhouses, Tubby Smith, and much more. But first things first, the playoffs are here. It's been a long season. It's been, it seems like November was yesterday, the way this thing has gone. But we're finally here. Golden State, of course, the number one overall seed. Cleveland in the East. What are your thoughts initially on just what you're looking forward to see, Brian?
Overall, these players should be exciting. You in the East, to me, it's wide open. After Cleveland, I think anybody has a shot to take them down. And, of course, in the West, you have Golden State number 1, San Antonio at the second spot, and, of course, OKC at number 3. With those teams at the top, it's going to be tough to take them down, but it should be fun. I'm hoping for Golden State versus San Antonio, in my personal opinion, but we'll see what happens.
Well, it's funny because one of the interesting things this season has been the story of Golden State and how they've been setting all these records, both 3 points and otherwise. They didn't lose for the first 2 months of the year, clobbering San Antonio later in the year, back-to-back, closing out the season in that fashion. But what's been really particularly interesting to me, and something we talked about previously, is just the way that they've played and the way that they have players doing things we haven't seen before. We had Steph Curry, actually, at the end of the regular season, holds 3 regular season league leader stats. That being points, free throw percentage, and steals, which I was actually kind of surprised about. I didn't realize he was the leader in steals. I figured somebody else, your Rondos, your CP3s, maybe even LeBron would be somebody who would get out in front in that particular stat. But it seems like he does a little bit of everything. And
a lot of people actually knock him for his defense. They say that he doesn't really play that great of defense, and for him to lead a stat in steals, that just goes to show you that he's an overall basketball player.
Well, it kind of gives you the idea of exactly how they can go about getting 73 wins and breaking the Bulls record. There's some other interesting statistics in there. It's funny. We would have thought that he would have led the league in three-point percentage as well, but that's not actually the case. Any guess who you think might actually lead the league in that stat?
Off the top of my head, I would think it would be Steph Curry, but
you think?
If I had to take a guess, maybe his teammate Klay Thompson?
Close, but no cigar. It's actually J.J. Redick of the Clippers. Yeah, unbelievably 47.5% from behind the arc. Now, the funny thing is, there was a point in the season when Steph was hitting, I got to think it was more than 47.5 from 3. At least I know all the statistics on SportsCenter kept saying that he was shooting some stupid number from 30 or 40 feet out. You remember all that?
I remember. It was something like 60%, 60+% from outside of 30 plus feet,
which was higher than everybody else from inside the arc,
within 10 feet of the rim.
Unbelievable. But we had Golden State winning against Memphis to close out the year in unbelievable fashion, and then of course we had Kobe going for 60. His last play, ironically, was an assist to close out his career, but going out in big fashion, number 24, really killing it.
Yeah, as a basketball fan, you couldn't ask for more.
No.
As Kobe Bryant playing 20 years for the Lakers, going out in style, scoring 60 points, chucking up 50 shots, but it was all good. That's all we wanted to see was Kobe just chuck up those shots, make those baskets, and it was vintage Mamba.
It was Kobe doing work, really. The funny thing is, everybody had expected that, Kobe's last game, it might be kind of sad because Kobe's way over the hill. He's not the same guy. Injuries have kind of taken their toll on what was already a career that was dwindling and winding down. But then instead in this last game, everyone thought, here's Golden State. They're going for 73. It's going to be, they're up against a playoff team. It's going to be a pretty good game. Kobe, it might be bad. Instead, I couldn't take my eyes off Kobe. By the second half, I knew Golden State was up by 20 and they were going to run away with that thing. And Kobe Bryant kept the team within 10, kept them within striking distance before finally just taking over and hitting everything at the end against a Utah team that, while they're a better team, that team had they just had taken a gut punch earlier from having Houston taking their playoff spot in a win earlier in the night.
Yeah, I mean, they found out that Houston won their game, and eventually that eliminated them from the playoffs. So it turned out to really be an exhibition game where both teams were playing freely, nothing to lose, just having fun out there. Last game of the season, and it was so much fun to watch.
Did anybody have a worse night than Utah? I mean, Gordon Hayward's guys, like.
I guess as a consolation prize, you playing Kobe's last game. You can tell your kids, your grandkids, something.
So, Marie, anything?
So I'll be honest, I went to bed.
You and about half of the world went to bed, it feels like.
I went to bed. I did not get to see it. I'm kind of sad now that I didn't stay up to watch it, but my sleep is not sad at all.
No.
So.
I mean, there's two kinds of people in this world. Those who were tweeting about it while it happened and those who read the tweets the next day and went, what the,
Right.
So...
Yep.
Moving on from the end of the regular season, we go to the playoffs. There's a lot of interesting matchups. Actually, at the time that we're recording this podcast, Toronto's already in the hole against Indiana. They dropped their first game, so they're in an 0-1 hole to start the playoffs. They've never won a series in their entire franchise history, which is unbelievable in and of itself. They're kind of, 2-3 years ago, they were in the same kind of position that Golden State would have been, where you have these teams that had, been kind of successful in the past and had some players and had some pieces and just really kind of fall apart in the playoffs. Of course, Golden State it's no longer the case for them, but what does Toronto got to do to get this thing together? It seems like even though they've got a couple stars, they've got a couple pieces, they've got solid role players coming off the bench like Patrick Patterson, guys like that. You've got Indiana, who by all rights should not win. They should win the series. There's no way. There's the 7th seed.
Yeah, and I mean, I tweeted out earlier that, the Toronto fans are celebrating their yearly choking because this is what they do. The past 3 years, they figured out the regular season. They've been able to win, 48-plus games, 50-plus games. And now, when they get into the playoffs, it seems like they just don't know how to play the game anymore. They have DeMar DeRozan, they have Kyle Lowry, they picked up DeMarre Carroll in the offseason, and it just seems to not be clicking when they get into the playoffs.
It's really... It's one of those things where you see teams and they get so close. I kind of compare it to like the San Diego Chargers in the NFL. Every year they're good. Every year, about halfway through the season, they're still good. And then there's an injury or another team comes up in their division or something happens, and all of a sudden you've got a situation where they're fighting for their playoff lives and either lose out or get blown out in the first round every single year. And I'm trying now to reach for their quarterback's name, and I can't get it.
Phillip Rivers.
Thank you. Phillip Rivers, every season you watch him throw for, 5,000-6,000 yards or something stupid like that. He's just throwing bombs all day, and his team is terrible. I kind of feel like Toronto is that team right now, where they've got a team who can get them into the playoffs most years, and no matter what seed they are, no matter where they end up, no matter what their record, they can't do anything else.
Well, what is it that they're missing? Like, if you're comparing it and saying that it's a guy with a really great team, with a really sucky team, and that's what's happening, like, do they have a guy in not a really good team, or is the team just mediocre? And then
they're missing a superstar. To me, DeMar DeRozan and Kyle Lowry, they're stars in the NBA. They can get their shots when needed. They can distribute. They can do things for a team. They're stars. But they're not a superstar. They're not a LeBron James. They're not a Kevin Durant. They're not an Anthony Davis. They're not guys that you can rely on to get you buckets when they're mostly needed, especially in the playoffs. And they haven't been able to prove that in the last 3 years.
They're a team that's constructed kind of strangely, too. Usually you don't have two guards who are your stars together without having a decent big man to do something else on your roster. In their case, they put up some decent numbers. They're 5th in the NBA in three-pointers. Their scoring isn't terrible. It's right around the middle of 14th at 102.7 per game. But they don't really win the big games. They don't close out. They were terrible, as I recall, against teams who were good, like your top 2 seeds in the East and West this season during the regular season. But, I mean, if you look down their roster, you're not really scared of a Bismack Biyombo. A lot of potential, but not somebody who's really, scaring the pants off the opposition. You've got a lot of guys, a lot of names that you've heard before, but that you kind of say, oh, that's where that guy went. Luis Scola. Oh, that's where that guy went. Like I said, Patrick Patterson. That's where that guy went. Valanciunas. Oh, there he is. DeLon Wright. There's all kinds of guys who. It's one of those teams that's kind of. There's a lot of teams like that in the East where they're full of people whose names you've heard, but you hadn't heard them in 2 or 3 years.
Right. They sound like they're guys that have been on multiple teams throughout their careers. Guys that have been on 5 teams in 4 seasons. Mm-hmm. Guys that have been around the league that they've collected. And, they're thinking to themselves, okay, we got our stars, we got our role players, we got guys that are veterans that can help our guys that are coming up and developing. This is a good nucleus that we have.
Yeah.
But, yeah, that's great for the regular season. But when you get into the playoffs, it's a totally different atmosphere, a different game where you need those superstars to take you to the next level.
On the other hand, how did Indiana beat them? I mean, they got Paul George, but...
You said it right there.
Is their second best
Paul
player
George.
Monta Ellis? Is that their second best player? I'm looking at their roster right now. I mean, you got Rodney Stuckey. SEC standout Rodney Stuckey.
Okay, so I might be making this up, but weren't the Pacers like one of the very worst teams for like the start of the season? Like they just started out terribly?
Yes, we thought they were going to. They were the surprise of the season behind maybe the Celtics. They were a team that they blew up their roster at the end of the season. And everyone thought, well, Frank Vogel, their coach, is going to have to do some real work to get this thing anywhere near decent. Here's a guy who coached, a team full of superstars to pushing LeBron and the Heat years ago in the Eastern Conference Finals. It felt like every single season. And now instead what we've got is a roster that has to play small ball. What we're seeing is that Frank Vogel's a really good coach. And his ability to coach his guys up to play small ball rather than the sort of massive, big player, throw it inside, big man dominant ball they played before has been what shined this season in a year where the East has been kind of wide open.
Yeah, you got to give Frank Vogel some credit. Losing Roy Hibbert's not really a big piece, if you ask me, but for them he was.
Yeah.
But they lose Roy Hibbert, they lose David West to San Antonio, and of course you got to mention the fact that Paul George is coming back from a gruesome leg injury.
Yes, he is.
And to be able to put up the numbers that he has this season is just incredible.
It's remarkable. Someone has to step up in the void, and they always say that that's where somebody gets to kind of be the bigger name, play the bigger role, is when somebody else is injured or down or traded or whatever happens. I was watching 30 for 30 last night, and there was the Orlando Magic one with Shaq and Penny Hardaway, and they were saying how when Shaq left, Penny had to pick up the pieces and become the big star. In his case, it kind of fell apart for him as injuries took their toll. Hopefully we can avoid saying the same with Paul George. But, the funny thing is, like I said, there's names on this roster that make you kind of say, I know that guy, like Raheem Christmas. I know him from Syracuse when he played in college. He seemed like he played for, he was there. He was very talented. He was very raw. He went to the NBA and disappeared. Now he pops back up on this roster. Jordan Hill.
Yep, he's been around the league. Yep, he's been around.
The Pacers.
Absolutely.
So it's been just an interesting kind of, especially in the East, we've got a number of teams that are doing that. You've got, Detroit's kind of doing their thing with guys who people might not think of as superstars. You've got the Celtics, of course, without really any superstars. The Pacers, you got George Hill and you got Paul George, but aside from those two, nobody really stands out. Toronto's the same way.
Yeah. Hey, you can even put Atlanta in that group.
Yeah,
they don't really have a superstar.
They tried to sell that last season.
Right.
As this is the way, we're the San Antonio of the future. We have no stars and we're going to win titles, except that San Antonio has stars. So
yeah. A couple of them. They have a couple of them.
It's a little different. But moving on. There's more basketball news in that Tubby Smith took the head coaching job at Memphis, surprising Texas Tech and most of the college basketball community. But we'll get to that in a second. First, I want to talk about something that we did last weekend. After the recording of the first podcast, we went out to a Brazilian steakhouse, did me, Marie, and her family for her birthday. And, man, let me tell you, I'd never been to one of these places. Have you ever been to a Brazilian steakhouse, Brian?
Actually, I have, and I believe the restaurant that you're going to bring up, I've been to this particular restaurant.
Fogo de Chao.
Absolutely, yep, I have been there.
It is the fanciest place I think I've ever eaten. Certainly the most expensive.
Yes, no, I now hold the record for most expensive birthday in my family.
Yes. We went, it was 5 people. I mean, the food was amazing, but it's just so strange. Like, nothing against the food or the way they deliver it, but you got dudes running around there with like little red scarves or hats or whatever they had on, and they have a buffet set up, and that's fine. It's a buffet.
Weren't they wearing gauchos too? I could have sworn.
Yeah, they were wearing gauchos. He didn't even notice the pants. He was too worried about their swords.
No, yes, and they just have meat on sticks, meat on swords, and it's like the thing is, it's not the fact that they're on swords; it's the way they deliver it, where it's just a barrage, like 6 of them in a row. Just they run up to your table, put the sword on the table, and they go, "Excuse me. Would you like today's special, sir?" And they just start cutting it. And you're like, "Oh my God, yes! Please give me the what is it?" And like garlic chicken or whatever.
Right.
And we had a situation there where we actually had, they're bringing around all the stuff like the special, the lamb, the chicken breasts or whatever. We're like, "Oh, that's great. Okay, we've had enough meat. This is fine. There's so much on our plate. Holy cow! I can't even eat all this meat right now." And then a guy comes up and goes. And he goes, "Excuse me, would you like the
bacon wrapped filet?"
Bacon wrapped filet mignon. And we're like, yes.
Like the whole table breathed yes.
We all just looked at this poor dude like, "Oh my God, where have you been all my life? How have we never known that you existed before?"
And all of us were just taking one. My mother has a very strong personality. We're taking
3.
one. My mom was at him. She's like, "I want 2.
Yeah. But we all just looked at him like, of course we want bacon wrapped filet mignon. I mean, it's the most obvious answer in the world.
We also discovered even if you flip your card over, if everyone at the table does not flip at the same time, the meat does not stop.
Then you're going to have trouble.
Yeah.
That is true, yeah, because I went with my parents, and me and my dad had the card flipped over, but my mom still had it, on the green, and so these guys kept coming over, bringing all the food.
It's a meat train.
Yeah, exactly.
It just doesn't end until you flip the card back over. I was also thinking, what other foods could they put on swords that'd be fun to eat? What if they just brought over for dessert, so the dessert menu was actually a guy with a sword that just had a whole bunch of cheese sticks stuck to it?
They had the shrimp, too. I don't know if you guys had the shrimp. Oh, that was so good. The shrimp was so good.
I feel like I've been let down.
I also had to order.
Gotta go back.
I had to relearn how to order.
Most expensive birthday.
I had to relearn how to order meat there because all their meat was about 5 degrees or a degree of cooking colder than it is other places.
Well, okay, in all fairness, we don't eat at good steak places. If you'd like to fund us eating at good steak places, I will not stop you.
Sponsor the podcast.
Yes, that's a good time.
Stretch 5 Pod or stretch5podcast at gmail.com.
So we usually order at a Texas Roadhouse, a Longhorn, something like that, where medium is well done in a nice restaurant. And medium rare is closer to what you would get as rare in a nice restaurant.
Just like God intended.
And so, I like my meat more on the bloody side, but a number of people at the table were like, "I don't know what to do. Why do they keep bringing me rare steak?" I'm like, "Quit ordering it medium rare."
Well, they kept giving me cuts that I didn't expect in terms of their temperature. And speaking of unexpected cuts, we had Josh Pastner go from Memphis to Georgia Tech.
That was your segue?
And filling in his place is Tubby Smith, former coach of Texas Tech. I had to get us back to basketball somehow. Tubby, of course, has a national title at Kentucky in 1998. He's coached all over the place. And it was really, like I said earlier, unexpected and surprising to most in the community that he would actually move over to Memphis. It's an upward move for him because Texas Tech is not Memphis. But he had sort of established himself. He'd gotten into the tournament, first time they'd been, I think, since Billy Gillespie was coach. And, despite being knocked out, he was kind of set in an easy, low expectation situation, which is what he goes for.
Well, I guess that was kind of what was surprising to me is that it kind of looked like with Texas Tech, he was starting to build something. That, Texas Tech is never going to be a blue blood school.
No.
They're just not. But starting to get where, okay, this is a successful program where I can do some recruiting, I can kind of build up a legacy in this small area, and then to just jump ship again is
and a lot of these, you got to wonder, a lot of these successful coaches, they have to have an ego. And so, when they win in a certain place and they're a proven winner, they want to go to bigger and better things to show, okay, I can do it here too.
Well, it was a surprise because Memphis picked them up, not because Tubby went. Because for Tubby, it makes perfect sense. He's got it kind of set up to where he's got a quiet place and he's got this, that, and the other. But from Tubby's perspective, you've got Texas Tech, which is in the Big 12. And the Big 12 right now is an absolute beast of a conference. It's got Kansas, it's got Oklahoma, it's got Baylor, your favorite team, Marie.
Yes, I like Baylor.
They've got very pretty arms.
They do. Well, okay, last year's team did. We don't know what next year's team looks like, but I do look forward to discovering what arms you have for me.
If Coach Scott is back, it's going to be another team full of biceps, triceps, and dunks. But you got Baylor, you've got Texas, you've got... it's got Iowa State. Iowa's no longer in the conference, but there's a million teams that are really, really good in that conference. West Virginia's now in that conference as well. Bobby Huggins and them boys. But it's got 6 or 7 teams.
I thought you were going to say Bobby Huggins in that shirt and sweatpants.
No, I would have gone with Huggins. So I went Bobby Huggins or Huggy Bear.
Back in the Cincinnati days.
Yeah, whichever one we want to go with. But it's a conference that doesn't really... You're not going to be successful at Texas Tech right now in the Big 12. It would be like if you went to the ACC and you were trying to do successful things at Virginia Tech, or you're trying to do successful things... even Josh Pastner going to Georgia Tech, that's a good move for him. And he might be able to do some things, but that's going to be a real uphill battle for Pastner. But with Tubby going to Memphis, it makes perfect sense. You're in a conference that's way weaker than the Big 12. You have a lot less competition. You are in a much better place for recruiting, and he's shown that he can bring these non-power programs into prominence just with X's and O's. Well, he's won everywhere he's been.
Well, yeah, but well, except for Kentucky, really. But Memphis is already kind of the power in their conference.
Yes, but they had become incredibly toxic to their coach. He, of course, was a former assistant to John Calipari, who went to Kentucky, and Memphis fans hold it over Cal that Memphis hasn't been good since he went to Kentucky. The fact that Pastner was an assistant under Coach Cal is just further fuel to their fire. And it's actually surprising to me, and the thing that surprised everybody isn't that Tubby would go to Memphis, it's that Memphis would hire another Kentucky guy. Because obviously Tubby originally and most successfully was at Kentucky. But he's won everywhere he's been. And this is the thing I was going to bring up, is that with Tubby, if he brings Memphis back to the NCAA tournament, he'll do something that I don't think anybody has ever done. I'm, in fact, almost positive about the stat. I looked it up and I couldn't find other coaches who had done it, so my assumption is that it hasn't been done. There's several coaches who have brought 5 teams to the NCAA tournament, Tubby being one of them. Tulsa, UGA, Kentucky, Minnesota, Texas Tech, and now maybe Memphis. If he does that, he'll be the coach with the most programs brought to the NCAA tournament in his career.
Have any of them actually done well in the tournament, though?
Kentucky won the national title.
Well, Kentucky's Kentucky.
Georgia was really good.
So out of all those teams, he only has one title, correct?
Yeah. But that's not really saying anything against him. In the college, it's like really hard.
He's like a serial dater for.
Yes. Yeah, we all thought. Well, we all thought, because we've seen this. We've seen the song and dance before. We've seen coaches who are really good kind of taper out and kind of wind down their careers quietly in a small program that doesn't have great expectations. That's not a Kentucky or a Kansas. That will allow them to do their thing, not have to recruit these All-Americans 24/7, 365, and just coach the game the way they want to. But instead, he's cranking it up, because this is going to be a pressure cooker.
Do you know his longest tenure as far as which school he's been at? Which school he's coached at the longest?
I don't know. Actually, I could pull it up. I don't know his longest tenure specifically.
Because I feel like he
probably
might
Kentucky. Probably Kentucky.
Commitment issues.
Well, no. So
True. It's almost like he's staying for a couple years and then he's getting antsy and ready to go.
Well, okay, so here we go. He was coached by, I want to say it might have been Bob Knight at High Point. Maybe not. That might have been after Bob Knight went to Indiana. But he was an assistant at Kentucky, and then he went to Tulsa in 91. He was there for 4 years before he went to Georgia for 2 years, 95 to 97. But he brought them to the NCAA tournament, and for UGA, that in and of itself is a big deal. After that, he went to Kentucky, of course, and he was there for 10 years until 2007. Then he went to Minnesota from 2007 to 2013. 2013, they were kind of falling apart. He jumped ship before things got bad, which is really what he's ended up doing. And went to Texas Tech, been there for 3 years, brought them back into at least the NCAA tournament, which is a lot more than most coaches could say. I mean, heck, look at Coach Bob Knight, who was their coach 3 coaches ago now.
Texas Tech.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He wound down his career after Indiana at Texas Tech. Just kind of
Even you can bring up Larry Brown.
Yep.
At SMU.
Yep. Although Larry Brown had conditions. Yeah, he had some rules. He was like, I get my assistants. I don't recruit nothing. And I don't care about no rules. I'm just doing my thing and balling out. We're going to have great players. It's going to be fun. We're not going to go to the postseason. Like, that was in his contract. We're not going to the postseason.
You got to hate the NCAA sometimes.
Well, and the thing is, the year before that, they barely didn't make the cut. Then this year they come in. They're the last team that's undefeated after South Carolina, after Frank Martin's South Carolina team. And they're not going to the playoffs. A Louisville team that was really good and it didn't go to the playoffs. UNC shouldn't have gone to the playoffs. Or the postseason, I should say.
Well, I mean, they broke rules.
Yes.
All 3, 4, 5 teams. Does anyone in college sports not break these rules?
I mean, everyone breaks some rules, but not everybody has prostitutes.
That's on the extreme.
Yes.
Not everybody has an assistant coach who's being inappropriate with the ball boys. I mean, like at Syracuse. Not every program is creating entire programs that are fake for academic reasons for athletes like UNC did under Dean Smith and now under Roy Williams.
Well, I mean, going back to Tyler Summit, I guess with that being the case, it's probably a really good thing that Louisiana Tech isn't a powerhouse. Because there's got to be a rule against getting your team pregnant.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, is it going to be the Summit
I
rule?
kept trying to call him his teammate. She's not his teammate.
No.
Because imagine that happening at Tennessee.
I mean, I'm just for a brief moment.
All the Tennessee jokes started going through his head. All of them.
I was just picturing Pat Summitt being pregnant from one of her players, except that her players are women, but still it'd be hilarious. No, but something else. We're going to get off this college basketball thing here in a moment because obviously this is mostly NBA. Today this week it's been all NBA.
Okay, so this is another problem I have with my intro name.
What's that?
I obviously know very little about the NBA. Like, my voice just goes away during NBA, and then we get to college, and I actually know stuff again.
Well, I considered calling you the NBA Title IX insider, but I didn't feel like you'd like that.
No, I don't like that. I don't like that at all. Title IX is a wonderful thing.
Stretch 5, uterus insider. I don't.
That's so much worse. So much worse.
Now that I think about it, yes.
We can give you
Nothing to do with stretch and uterus. Nothing to do with stretch and uterus. We're getting an explicit rating again.
What about suffragette?
No. Thank you.
No? You don't like that name?
I don't like that name. I do like the ability to vote, but not that name.
Woman voter insider Murray Rush.
We'll work on the name, fellas.
Yeah, we'll get there. We'll figure something out. There's only 3 of us after all. We don't have a team of minions who are going back and research. I have a laptop and we got a phone and there's some paper, and that is our research department. Sad, isn't it?
So once again, if you would like to help us eat at better steakhouses.
Yeah, we'll put your name in big lights. All 7 people that listen to this thing are gonna be like, oh, those guys.
Only $100 bills accepted.
Write in your complaints on a $100 bill and send them to. No, anyway, moving on back to, I guess, to the NBA for a moment. We had, something I thought that was interesting, again, going back to the 73 versus 60 debate, the Kobe versus GSW debate. Something I thought that was interesting that I took away from it is that when you look at the way those games went, it sort of capitulated. It sort of summarized the way the game is going, because all season what we've seen are these kind of mild blowouts from Golden State. Every game, Golden State's winning by 15 to 30, it seems like. Most of the season, it's just not exciting basketball. Everyone's like, oh, it's beautiful. Oh, it's amazing how they play. Oh, look at this. And it's like, that's great, but I can only watch so many blowouts. Like, I want to turn on something that's fun to watch. And aside from it being history with 73, that's not fun to watch. On the other hand, you've got Kobe. And 60 points by an individual player is amazing. The fact that it's his last game is even more amazing. The fact that it's against a decent team is pretty cool, too. and just the whole sort of show and spectacle of it all was really something to see. I'm not going to lie to you, and this is not hyperbole. I really didn't watch any part of that Golden State game after the second half. I checked my phone and was like, oh, they're still up by 20.
No, I'm right there with you. I caught myself as soon as I turned on the Laker game. My eyes were fixed on Kobe and watching him play in his final game. Mm-hmm. I think the only time that I actually turned to see the Golden State game was when the Laker game went to halftime.
Yeah.
And, to add to your point about, these blowouts, it does come to a point where you're like, man, you want to see some competitive basketball. You want to see a good team tested to their limits.
Yeah.
After a while, it's fun to watch Steph Curry do his thing, dribble around these guys, shoot these threes from, 30 plus feet. But at the end of the day, you want to see a good game where two teams are battling to win a game.
It's fun until it's not, I think is probably the way to put it. It's just the kind of thing where at the first month of the season, you're like, man, this team is good. Wow, look at the way they're handling everybody. They beat the crap out of Memphis to start the season. They were beating teams that were not very good, but still, they were beating them by a lot. About October, November, January, that's not really the case anymore. And the problem is when you stack the schedule so that the second best team in San Antonio is playing Golden State starting in February, all of a sudden, if they're still blowing them out, that's not fun to watch anymore. You're already bored by that. You're like, I don't want to watch them blow out another team, even if it is San Antonio. But, on that note, we'll go back over to the East, because one more thing that came out of that last night in the NBA, something that I thought was fascinating, is that we had a four-way tie for third at the end of the season on the eastern side of the playoff picture. We had Miami, Atlanta, Boston, and Charlotte all tied at 48 and 34 to end the season, something that I thought was amazing. You had to go through all kinds of tiebreaker situations and scenarios where if this team wins this and this team wins that, then this is going to happen, and this is the reason that X, Y, and Z is going to be the third seed, fourth seed, fifth seed, etc. What you ended up with is you have Boston facing Charlotte, the 4 and 5. You've got Miami going up against, it looks like...
Boston is facing Atlanta.
Sorry, Boston, Atlanta. Miami, Charlotte, and it just ended up being a fascinating finish of the season where two of the teams who played lost. You had Boston beating Atlanta and Miami losing to... Who did they lose to?
They lost to Boston.
They lost to... Man, I'm all...
Atlanta lost to Washington.
That's right, without Bradley Beal or John Wall, which is impressive in and of itself.
And it was fun to watch the entire season, to see these four teams battle it out. If you're a fan of these four teams,
yeah,
each and every game of the regular season meant something. They had to grab a win here. They had to, prevent a loss there just to stay within the pace of these other teams that they were battling out for home court advantage as eventually at the end of the season.
You had 10 teams that were within a game or two of being in the playoffs, with Chicago and Washington just missing the cut. And all season, teams at least 3 to 8 were completely up for grabs. Those seedings were always up for grabs, most, if not all, of the entire season for most of the conference. And it made it really compelling. It was one of the things I really liked about this regular season, is that instead of just saying, well, it's the end of the year, everybody's resting, all these teams have, they got guys sitting, they got guys injured in air quotes, they have guys who don't really care because their seed's already locked up. No, except for at the very end, 2 weeks left in the season by the time both 1 seeds became locked up. Before that, everything was pretty much open and in the running, and it made it a much more exciting season as a spectator and as a fan. Unlike, to get back to the West, you kind of knew who the first 2 seeds are going to be, and then you knew who the next 2 seeds are going to be. And there was some excitement with the bottom 4, but really what you're looking at there is who's going to go out in the first or second round in those bottom 4 seeds.
Yeah, well, when you looked at the West, in everybody's mind, you're just thinking, okay, Golden State and San Antonio. That's all anybody was waiting for, to see those.
Who gets to lose to Golden State?
Right.
Who's going to be on the chopping block? Marie looks like she's about to fall asleep from all this NBA discussion, so
I'm not going to fall asleep.
Let's move on to our last topic that I've got written down anyway. This is a crazy story. This is an absolutely insane thing that has nothing to do with basketball, but it's so ridiculous that I had to bring it up on the podcast. So I'm reading through, a news site that's just conglomerates all kinds of different kinds of stories, and I stumble upon this thing. I'm like, wait, what? wait, what? Like, you just keep reading and you keep going, what? Every time you come across something stupid or crazy in this headline. So
Are you sure you weren't reading Florida Man tweets?
no, this is better than Florida Man tweets. This is Canadian Man tweets. Florida Man got nothing on Canadian Man. Let me tell you. Let me prove it to you. Canadian man sentenced to 50 hours of community service and is fined $2,500 and banned from owning reptiles for a decade because he was caught at the Canadian border coming in from southeast Ohio smuggling more than 1,000 turtles that were taped to his legs and smuggled under his sweatpants. He was smuggling them into Canada.
How many turtles again?
1,000 in his pants. 1,000 turtles in his pants. He had 1,000 turtles in his pants.
How is that possible?
Somebody noticed a bulge and reported it when he went to drop off a package.
I'm wondering how they noticed a bulge because so baby turtles are very small. They're about the size of a quarter.
Yes.
So
Okay.
they're very small. Don't ask me how I know so much about turtles.
Are you smuggling turtles in your pants across the Canadian border?
Yes, I have a turtle in my pants right now.
Were the turtles the package? was that what he...
I think so, yes.
Was he delivering the turtles?
I no, actually, I don't know. That's what they noticed, but I think what it was is I think he was holding them in Petri dishes of some sort and taping those to his legs.
Okay, that's good because I was really actually worried about the very delicate little shells.
I wanted you to picture him actually taping turtles to his legs.
That's what I was looking at.
picturing. And I was like,
Yeah.
the poor baby turtles. No wonder
But-
he can't have one for 10 years.
I mean, crime in Canada is weird, man. Like, there's all kinds of weird stuff that happens over there. They have maple syrup, like plants that are stolen from them. Just hundreds of thousands of gallons of maple syrup are stolen and resold on the black market. You know, you get all these weird stories about stuff that happened in Canada.
that maple syrup.
No. I didn't know that was a crime.
It's a sticky situation. So,
You get 10 points deducted for bad puns.
but no, it's just an interesting story. I feel like anytime I see something like that, I'm going to try and bring it up here, even though it's got nothing to do with basketball. Who doesn't want to know about the Turtle Man? You know,
I feel like a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle joke should be made, and I have nothing.
I feel like this is better than that.
It is better than that, but I'm still. I feel like the joke should be made, and I have nothing.
So,
Michelangelo should not steal maple syrup.
yes, there's your title right there. Michelangelo should not steal maple syrup.
That was a bad joke, too.
Actually, I'm thinking of deducting 20 from you. That was just pitiful.
I'm in the lead. The first lead of my career.
An imaginary joke scoreboard.
We got jokes.
I might not be on the next episode.
Maybe paying off his debts. His pun
Fired
debts.
for bad Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle jokes.
But, you know, heading into the playoffs, we've got a number of games that are going to be, I think, pretty interesting. Obviously, we have the one game that already went through and is final with Toronto amazingly dropping a game to the 7-seed Indiana Pacers.
Trash. They're trash, man.
You have no faith. Your lack of faith in them is...
I'm actually really sad about that because their mascot is awesome. I would love to be a Raptors fan. Just to be a Raptors fan.
And are you talking about the regular Raptor, like the one that's the actual mascot, or the one that's inflatable and does the...
Or are you talking about Drake? Which one is it?
Well, is he a reptile? Is he a dinosaur? I'm not
Dinosaurs,
sure.
we're not sure, are reptiles anymore. They're probably birds.
All right, let's see. So we got the Rockets and Warriors. It's actually going on right now, and it's...
What's the score?
Wow.
Uh-oh.
Oh.
Wow.
What does that mean?
So we're almost at halftime, and the Warriors are up by, 17? Now it's 19?
Are you surprised?
I feel like that's going to be a 5-game series, because I think James Harden might win one for them. I think he might go off for 40 or 50 in a game and win one of those games for him before his team just gets annihilated. We've got the Celtics and Hawks later tonight at 7. That should be actually a pretty good game.
Eastern Standard Time.
Yeah.
Of course, yes.
Yeah. Mavs and Thunder
Just
at
helping
9:30.
people out.
Yeah. Who lives on the West Coast?
If you live on the West Coast, we would love to hear from you.
Yeah, tell us why you live there. Send us your hate. And then the Mavs and the Thunder tonight at 9:30. That's actually, I think, maybe the most interesting matchup of the first round. Like, I didn't think the Dallas Mavericks were going to be in the playoffs a month ago. I thought they were going to peter out. I thought Dirk is old. The rest of their team is good, but not. It's nothing to write home about. They had Rondo last year, which was weird. Then he went to Sacramento and has done better there. But it's just an all-around odd roster composition.
Yeah, I mean,
generally.
Similar to the other teams that we talked about, it's a makeup of guys that have, bounced around from a couple teams that they've put together kind of around Dirk and Chandler Parsons that they have there. You have, like JJ Barea starting for them, a little point guard, doing his thing. But, they were battling for that 8th spot. They were able to move up to 7. So they get OKC in the first round. And I actually think it's an intriguing matchup. I feel like Dallas can actually... They can push OKC a little bit.
Well, depending on what kind of OKC team comes out, it could be a series. It could be a really close series. I mean, OKC is not completely safe from being wiped out in this round, I don't think. I think it's almost a sure thing because you've got Durant, you've got Westbrook, you've got, Ibaka, you've got a great team, you've got a coach that's... I love Billy Donovan. He was a great coach at Florida, won 2 titles.
It'll be his first playoff, so we'll see what he does.
Yeah, he's just I'm not totally sold on him as an NBA coach. But, the odd thing is how similar in some ways this team is to the team that won a title with Dallas. You've got Dirk, you've got Chandler. Well, no, Chandler Parsons wasn't a part of that, was it? Was he?
No. Who
am I thinking of?
I don't even think he was in the league.
No, I'm thinking of the big man. Oh, man, why am I having trouble with his name now?
Tyson Chandler, thank you. I'm here for you.
That first last name thing, they're both Chandler. It throws me off. But looking at the rest, they're another one of those teams. They've become one of those teams that's just a repository for names you've heard 5 years ago. Like Zaza's on their team.
Zaza Pachulia.
Yeah, the Big Z. Like, what? How did he get there? You've got Devin Harris. You've got Villanueva's on their team, which is already pretty funny. David Lee. Oh, man, it's just that there's so many rosters. Like it feels like, it's one of those teams where you're like, wait, that's where he went. Like
exactly, yeah.
We always talk like there's always teams who they just take in these guys, or guys just travel around, and halfway through the season they disappear off your radar, and they come back near the playoffs, and all of a sudden they're coming off the bench against the 1 seed, and you're like, wait, what? Who?
And if you remember going back to the offseason, Dallas had to do a lot of scrambling with their roster because of the whole DeAndre Jordan situation.
Because they had a powwow and they wouldn't let... I mean, that situation was absolutely bonkers.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Was, one of the stranger things I've ever seen. Did you have anything?
It's the NBA, so no.
It's the...
She's not the NBA uterus insider, so
for nothing.
No.
we're gonna have to reevaluate this.
I expect you to bring more to the table.
I went to sleep during Kobe's last game. You really think that I have something to share?
You didn't know it was Kobe's last game.
That is not true. I knew it was Kobe's last game. I still went to sleep.
Ouch. Going forward to tomorrow, to Sunday, we've got the Pistons and the Cavs, Hornets, Heat, Grizzlies, Spurs, and Trailblazers, Clippers. Obviously, you being a Heat guy, you're going to be partial to that game. But outside of that matchup, and we'll get to that one, what else interests you there?
Well, of course, you got Cleveland and Detroit. For the most part, I feel like Cleveland will handle that series in 4 or 5 games. There might be a game where Detroit can get one at home. But for the most part, I just see LeBron, Kyrie, Love just overpowering those guys there.
I think that's going to be an interesting matchup. I don't think that Detroit really has a chance, but boy, they've got an interesting team. They've got, did anybody see 2 or 3 years ago the player that Andre Drummond became, like him coming up and blowing up the way he has? We were talking about that at the beginning of the season as well, where he was putting up, I believe what was he averaging? Like 20 and 18 or something stupid like that. Like, it was unbelievable how well he was playing. They've cooled off a little bit since then, but they've got another one of those rosters that's got a couple guys that are pretty interesting pieces. They acquired Tobias Harris, of course. They've got Van Gundy as their head coach. They've got KCP, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope from Georgia. He was a standout in his time at the SEC. And then you've got a bunch of guys who, once again, the East is just full of these teams. You got, Steve Blake.
Yeah, he's been around the league.
Need I say more? Steve Blake is on this team. Steve Blake, who has been on the same roster as let's see, who else did he play for? Did he play with? Was he with Nash or was he with Kidd? One of those rosters.
He's been on so many teams, man. I mean, he's been on the Lakers. He's been on Portland. He's the journeyman.
And one of the Morris twins is on here. Jody Meeks found his way onto this roster somehow, formerly of the Lakers, and then previous to that to Kentucky. I mean, you've got a snapshot of college basketball 5 years ago on this roster.
And that's not a roster that's going to scare Cleveland.
No. Might win a game, maybe, but I don't see them giving them much of a threat. You got the Spurs and Grizzlies. I don't think with the Grizzlies in their current state, they're going to pose much of a danger to San Antonio. And
yeah, I mean, to me, that should be a 4-game sweep. And Memphis has gone through so many injuries this season, losing Gasol. I believe Connolly is still out for them.
Yep.
So I don't think they have any shot of even getting a game against San Antonio.
Portland, LA should be an interesting series. I think it's going to come down to who shows up more. The Clippers, 2 to 3 stars, or, the Trailblazers, one guy whose name I am trying to stall for because I can't think of it.
Damian Lillard?
Thank you, Damian Lillard.
Always here for you.
Had a brain fart. Yeah, is it going to be Lillard? Is it going to be Blake Griffin? Is it going to be CP3? Is it going to be DeAndre Jordan? Who's going to come out more?
I mean, yeah, out of all the matchups in the West, to me, it's that Clippers-Portland matchup that intrigues me the most as far as seeing an upset. I believe with Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum in that backcourt, they do have a shot to pull up an upset.
So Clippers they're the 4 seed in this one.
Correct.
Yeah.
So they have home court advantage.
I don't know how much that's going to matter because, I mean, it's the Clippers, eh?
Yeah.
Blake Griffin's still coming back off that injury he had near the end of the season, and Lillard's been unbelievable. He's been another guy who's been unreal. I mean, if the Celtics and the Pacers have been the surprise of the East, Lillard has to be, aside from the 70-win teams,
I mean, that team lost 4 starters from last year. The only guy that came back was Lillard.
They traded their entire team to San Antonio. I mean, their whole team went straight to San Antonio. As I almost broke my chair on air. That was great. Last game we have to talk about, the one that's probably of the most interest to you, Miami taking on somebody.
Charlotte Hornets.
Yeah. MJ's team.
Definitely can't wait for the matchup tomorrow. We'll see what happens.
Kemba Walker and them boys.
Kemba Walker. I can name a few other guys for you guys out there. They got Al Jefferson. For you Jeremy Lin fans, he's on the team. Lin Sanity, if you want to call it that still. But they got Marvin Williams.
Jeremy Lamb
too.
Yep. Two UConn guys who beat Kentucky in the tournament. I'm not a fan of Charlotte's roster as constituted, although I do like Michael Kidd-Gilchrist, who's been out most of the season with a pretty gnarly shoulder injury, as I recall.
Right, and I believe he had surgery, came back, but then actually re-aggravated the injury, yep. And so he's out.
That's unfortunate. That guy has been playing his butt off, and, I mean, he kind of seems like it's like how hard can you play? How much can you rehab yourself? How hard can you work to get back on the court only to have recurring injuries like this one? It's kind of reminiscent. It's almost reminiscent of like Steph Curry before he got his life together. I almost slipped there.
His life together? You made it sound like he's doing drugs out here or something.
Yeah, I was like, Steph Curry was on the streets? Like,
no, but his ankles were. They were like, we'll turn for $1, That was pretty
Brad
good, right?
now gets 20 points for that joke. That was actually good.
I'm taking the lead once again. But
behind.
It's been a very topsy-turvy career, really, for Michael Kidd-Gilchrist, who still can't shoot. His jump shot looks like it resembles a jump shot now. It resembles a thing that a human might do when they try to shoot a basketball. But
that junk was so ugly when he first entered the league.
Terrible.
That even looked like a jump shot. I didn't know what that was.
My man could not shoot when he came into the league. He couldn't shoot at Kentucky either. But boy, he was
I'm glad he was your man because he was not my man. I would not endorse that jump shot for anything.
This team, so you've got Michael Kidd-Gilchrist, you've got Aaron Harrison, who I think did he come up from the D-League? Is that what's happened with him now?
What's his name?
Aaron Harrison.
He was on Kentucky's team last year.
Yeah, the 30
He's one of the Harrison twins.
Okay.
Oh my God, this team is...
I don't know. To be honest, I don't know.
It's a roster full of 7-foot white dudes I know from college. This is bizarre. You got Tyler...
Oh, he's got Frank Kaminsky, too.
You got Tyler Hansborough. You got Frank Kaminsky. You got Cody Zeller.
So we're talking about college. I'm back.
Yeah, you got the big handsome on this team. You got a whole bunch of guys that UK fans hate. Kimba Walker, Cody Zeller, Frank Kaminsky, Jeremy Lin, excuse me, Tyler Hansborough.
You could tell MJ likes his big white men.
I mean, my gosh. He takes his big men like he takes his coffee. Heavy cream. I don't know.
I feel like that would evens out. It's like -5 for awful and +5 for it was still funny.
I'll just say this. Easily the ugliest photo of all the NBA rosters. And I don't say this lightly because, boy, there's some bad pictures. Some of these guys. Jeremy Lin.
I mean, I'm looking at it.
Do you see this? I'm lifting this sucker up.
Okay, so...
Wow.
Before I say this, I know nothing about Jeremy Lin's background. But what this picture looks like is like if that kid from the Goonies, the one who invents everything, grew up to be a 7-foot monster.
That's a Harvard graduate you're looking at.
I'm just saying, that's...
Your tax dollars at work. Not really.
How's Harvard by tax dollars?
His hair has had a season of its own. I mean, he's been changing that hair up all season long. One day it'll be spiked up. The next day it'll be combed over. It's been doing its own thing.
He's been
it's some impressive hair.
Well, he's been trying to do his best Andrew Bynum impersonation, I guess. You know, you remember that season when he was injured, and every other game it was the Andrew Bynum hair show where he would show up with a suit that was tacky and hair that was tackier.
At least Jeremy Lin is balling. You know, we can't. If he's
For a
getting out
second, I
there,
thought you said balding. And
no, balling.
He's covering up a lot of his balls.
I was like,
Or maybe that's what he's
harsh.
doing. Maybe he's covering up balding.
I was like, that's harsh, Brad. You wish you had no hair on the man.
I hope we sweep Charlotte.
Yeah, I do too. Honestly.
No love for Charlotte.
I love two of the players in that team. I really do. You know, one of the Harrison twins is on there. You got Michael Kidd-Gilchrist, but honestly, aside from them, that is a team full of people I can't stand, really. And I love Dwayne Wade. I love Hassan Whiteside. Hopefully, Bosch is going to be able to contribute something.
Well, actually, there was some news that came out yesterday where they said that Bosch addressed the team kind of as a message before the playoffs started.
Sure.
But they were saying that he told the team that he's probably not going to be around for the playoffs.
It kind of seemed like it was going that way because it's hard to come back after such a long time out and contribute meaningfully to a playoff run when you haven't played in months. And unfortunately, that's the case with him. With his situation, as far as the blood clots, at this point, his life is more important than the game of basketball. Well,
so.
It raises a lot of more important questions, and they've been discussed ad nauseum all over the place about all the travel in the NBA and how these guys are so tall and having to fit themselves into smaller spaces to get place to place. And the fact that, you've got assistant coaches waking up in the night not knowing what city they're in because it's the middle of the NBA season and they're traveling all the time. It really makes Golden State's run more remarkable when you think about the fact that they've got 73 wins despite traveling more than any other team this season. And I think any other team last season, too.
Yeah, they sure did a lot of traveling this season.
We're talking like six-figure, like hundreds of thousands of miles within 2 years.
Well, and you were talking about, or we were talking about last week, how they had those 4 games at the end of the season where they went to one city, went to another city, went back to the city A, and then went back to city B. Like, when you're traveling a lot, something like that just starts to, like, wear on you, where you're like, can I please just stay here?
Well,
I'm going to be back next week.
The thing with that is that Golden State, that's a little bit deceiving because I believe it was more like they played like Memphis and at San Antonio, and then Memphis and San Antonio at home, unless I'm mistaken on that. It was something to that effect.
Yeah, I believe, it was San Antonio, then Memphis.
There's a little bit of stability in the scheduling. A little bit. Not much, because it's by far the most unstable of the major sports in the U.S. Major sport market. But there's a little bit to where they do that, but honestly, it's mostly insane. I mean, the thing that you look at is like one of the more predictable and stable elements of the San Antonio schedule every year is their Lone Star State tour where they go across Texas, and they're traveling for like 2-3 weeks straight all over Texas in the southwest. So, but like we said, playoffs are coming up.
Actually, playoffs
they're upon us.
current.
Underway.
More playoffs are coming up after they continue. First round action going on right now. Any predictions? Who you think? What's your
I
big
was about to
upset?
say, do you want to do some prediction podcasting here in
Prediction podcast
of the
could be
first
fun.
round? Yeah.
What's your upset pick for the first round? What do you got?
So, I mean, we talked about this kind of earlier in the week. I don't believe in Toronto. So, in the East, I would say that Indiana would upset Toronto in the first round.
You think that's going to be your go-to matchup for a 7 seed over the 2 seed,
Right.
which is not unprecedented. I mean, nothing's unprecedented. Any year in the NBA, we've obviously had the Memphis Grizzlies taking down the Spurs in an 8-1 matchup. I think if I had to pick a team that I think can overtake a better seeded team, I have to think about it for a second because there's a couple matchups that are interesting. Like I think Portland can do with the Clippers, but that's not really an upset. I think I'd probably take Dallas over OKC. I think that team is currently constituted. They're playing really well right now. Dirk Nowitzki is unstoppable at the moment, which is insane because, I mean, what is he, like 50 now? He's ancient, I also think the other higher seeded teams are just overmatching the rest of the matchups. I think Cleveland's going to destroy Detroit. Golden State obviously is going to take care of Houston. I think San Antonio, and I think Toronto is going to win despite being down 0-1. I think it'll probably be a 6-game series, maybe 7, but I don't think Miami's going to have too much trouble with Charlotte. I think Atlanta, Boston, and the Clippers and Portland are kind of they're toss-ups, but it's a 4-5. It's like the 8-9 game of the NCAA tournament. It's a coin flip.
Right. And yeah, it's a little tougher in the West for me as far as that OKC Dallas matchup and the Clippers and Portland as far as who I think is going to be as far as an upset pick. But I'm kind of leaning more towards that, like you said, the Dallas OKC matchup. That seems to be a little bit more intriguing as far as a team that could push OKC to the limits.
I think OKC is a team that could either get to push Golden State in the Western Conference Finals or be knocked out in the first round. They're kind of a dynamic sort of mystery team at the moment in terms of what they're going to do in the playoffs. It's also the case that a lot of these series, and this is one of the fun things in the playoffs, is a lot of these series you need to see the teams on the court against each other in a playoff situation before you can make a lot of good evaluations about what you think is going to happen. Obviously, some of the matchups, that doesn't really matter. Golden State and Houston is going to be an epic blowout, I think. I think it's going to be a 4-game sweep. But, even something like Memphis and San Antonio. Yeah, Memphis doesn't have Marc Gasol right now, but you don't know how Zach Randolph is going to play against that loaded San Antonio team. You don't know how, they're going to be able to adjust to whatever it is that Popovich does. But we'll see.
They'll be happy if they get a game.
Yeah,
in that series.
They should.
Yeah.
What about you, Marie? You got an upset prediction for us? Title IX Insider.
I'm upset you're asking me about this.
Who you got? Who you got? What you got?
I would like to point out that he didn't tell me that I was going to have to make predictions at all.
No, of course not.
I
Put you on the spot here.
Yeah, I got nothing.
You got nothing?
I got nothing.
So
I got predictions about soccer.
So she's got Detroit over Cleveland. She's going Detroit over Cleveland in the first round. Foolishly, I should say. We can talk soccer.
What a horrible pick. I mean,
jeez. I mean, has anybody?
Obviously, I know nothing about the NBA.
In the history of picks,
my God,
it might be the worst.
Why would I do that?
It would be nice though if they lost. I was just saying.
Everybody in the East would wish that to happen. Would be very on the bandwagon for Detroit, but
so go Detroit. Did you just turn on a video?
I muted it. I took care of it.
I was like, we're in the middle of recording this podcast, so this will just turn on a video.
It was a close thing, too. There was like 2 seconds there before we was going to start blaring official NBA stuff, and we probably wouldn't be able to play this stupid thing because of all the rights and protections and copyright that they've got going on. They got that thing locked down like you wouldn't believe. But anyway.
And now it's an interview with no subtitles. That's what he just turned on.
That's exactly right. Anyway, I think that about wraps it up. We're at about the hour marker here. We got first round underway, NBA playoffs going on. We've got all kinds of good matchups left and right, like we've discussed. We'll be back next week to tell you more about what happened, to discuss whatever crazy stuff happens in the world of sports or otherwise. And, of course, to do more prediction radio with our NBA Uterus Insider, Marie Rush. So, for Brian McCullough, for Marie Rush, and for myself, Brad Sturgeon, thanks for listening to the Stretch 5 podcast. You can catch us on Twitter at Stretch5Pod or by email, stretch5podcast@gmail.com. Send us your hate, send us your love, send us whatever you got. Tell us if you listen. Send us a Twitter, follow us, a tweet.
Send us the entire Twitter. We want to own that.
All of it.
And your donations.
Yes. Every dollar counts in sending us to something that...
If you send us money, we might actually hire someone to research.
The show can only go up from here.
Wait, didn't you say that last time?
I think that was off air.
It's on air now. All right, guys. I guess that's it. We'll see y'all next week. Thanks for listening.
Peace.